Alright, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys, the most recent update of GoodVito post-injury. So obviously a big topic of conversation lately has been this guest posing that GoodVito did where he fell off the stage. He had to leave the show in a wheelchair, and there's a lot of speculation about the potential implications of this potential injury on his pro debut in September. So the first update that he posted was an actual physique update, a most muscular where he's actually showing both legs, and he still looks fine in this update. It looks pretty on par with the other updates that we've seen from him, but I still kind of stand by that the version of GoodVito that we saw at that guest posing, overall, even prior to the injury, didn't really look the same or didn't really look as impressive as a lot of these updates that he had been posting. The big thing that really stood out to me at the guest posing was his hernia, or his potential hernia, the belly button issue that he seemed to have, and he didn't really look as sharp or as full or as freaky as he did in a lot of these updates. This being a good example of this, like in this picture, his midsection is kind of covered there with whoever he was tagging. He's got his hands in front of it. And obviously the rest of his physique looks fine. And in addition to that, he hasn't commented yet on what exactly happened to his knee. He said he thought he might have tore a tendon or pulled a ligament or something in his knee when he landed falling off the stage. But he still hasn't gone on record yet to say if there is an actual injury, what that injury is, or how it's going to impact his prep for this show. But he has posted multiple videos on his Instagram story training legs. So apparently it's not bothering him too much, which could be a good sign. But still, overall, after that guest posing in general, I just have kind of a bad feeling about this upcoming pro debut for GoodVito. It was a really much talked about thing. Everybody was excited for it. And I feel like now there's a pretty big damper on that after seeing how he looked at the guest posing and then this potential injury, which could, if it is something more serious, maybe he's not saying, just maybe so he doesn't draw as much attention to it on stage. But what do you guys think overall about this GoodVito pro debut after seeing how he looked at the guest posing, considering the fact that he might have a potential leg injury? Is your excitement for that debut hampered in any way now? Or not? Do you think he looked fine? Let me know in the comment section down below. Now, obviously, this weekend we've got the Vancouver Pro. So we've got updates from both of, I think, the main guys that are competing there. That'll be 1 and 2 most likely. Number 1 being Hassan Mostafa, looking for some redemption here, obviously. After the Toronto Pro, after the Orlando Pro, these back-to-back runner-up position placings, Hassan really wants to qualify for the Olympia. This is his best opportunity to do that. This is the shortest lineup, the shortest competitor list of any of the shows that he's done so far, and none of the names that have beaten him at those past shows are in this one. So he posted an update today showing off the striations in his legs. I still don't feel like he looks anything significantly different this time around for this prep. He kind of overall in these updates looks the same as his peak week updates for the other shows as far as conditioning is concerned. And I really think even though this competitor list is a lot less competitive even than Orlando, I still think it's important that he steps up the conditioning here and needs to tighten up from that Orlando look, because I think he faded significantly for Orlando from how he looked in Toronto. And I'm still expecting to see a better version of Hassan here, even though I think it's likely that he could come in the same as Orlando, maybe even slightly worse, and still win this show. Now, he has went on record to say that this will be his third and final show this season. So I don't know yet if that means if he qualifies for the Olympia. I'm assuming he's still going to do the Olympia. I'm guessing that more so means if he does not win this show, this is his last attempt. But I think the main guy that he's going to have to get through here is Stanimal. So Stanimal was third at last week's Orlando Pro. Right behind Hassan, I think he was significantly sharper and more conditioned than Hassan. And recently, I think we've seen the best version of Stanimal that we've ever seen from a conditioning standpoint, even from a size standpoint, although I do still feel like that's still something he needs to work on to be more competitive as an open pro that moved up from another division. I still think in some of these lineups, despite how good his conditioning is, he just gets overpowered. He gets outsized. But even so, he did manage to place third right behind Hassan, one of the bigger mass monsters in Open, just a week ago, because his conditioning was that competitive. So if Hassan shows up here not looking good, Stanimal's going to push him again and kind of expose that weakness in his conditioning. Now, next up in the news, let's talk about the Masters Olympia a little bit. I was excited to see this update because this is a guy that I was talking about a couple videos ago, Robert Burneika, who was a really big-name bodybuilder from like the early 2010s that really didn't go very far with his pro career. He ended up pursuing other things. He fought in MMA. He opened up a gym business, and he kind of put the pro bodybuilding thing to the side. But at the time, he was like an infamous mass monster for having some of the biggest arms in the league. And now he's making this comeback for the first time in a very long time at the Masters Olympia. And I believe he's only 45, so I think he's more on the younger end of the Masters Olympia spectrum. But this one we actually got like a pretty full posing video. And this is what I was curious to see, was his lower body, because he was always pretty upper body dominant. But here in this video at 6 weeks out, you get to see he's got pretty good legs still. Overall, I'm actually surprised with how good he does still look. He looks pretty complete considering the fact that he went off and did all these other things since he's been a pro bodybuilder. He looks really good, and now I'm considering him as one of my favorites in this Masters lineup to potentially win the thing. I mean, a lot of people were talking about this Masters Olympia as being a little bit disappointing after they saw the competitor list, but there's still some things to be excited about here. I'm still excited to see this show. And Robert Burneika is one of the guys I'm excited to see. Of course, I'm excited to see Josh Nardowitz, but we honestly really haven't seen any updates at all of what his physique is looking like. I'm excited to see Phil Klahar, but we did just see him compete in Orlando, so it's not going to be like a huge surprise how he looks. But at this point, I am fascinated to see what Robert Burneika is going to look like here. I think he could look really good and surprise a lot of people that might not even know who he is. Now, next up in the news, a really impressive update from none other than Michal Krizo. So Michal Krizo just won a show. He's qualified for the Olympia. He's on his way. This posing video posted by his coach, very impressive. So look, here's the deal. When Michal Krizo competed last and won that show, qualified for the Olympia, I think he looked significantly better than the last time we saw him on stage at the Olympia. His conditioning was better. He looked more polished overall. He looked more comfortable on stage. His posing could still use some work, but I think it was also improved. In this update, he's about 16 and a half weeks out from the Olympia, and I think he looks pretty freaky in this update, especially compared to some of the other guys at various points in their Olympia prep. I think Krizo is really on track this year to surprise a lot of people at the Olympia. The goal for Krizo is going to be to crack the top 10. He was 12th last year, so the big thing for him is I really think just making it into the top 10 would be a huge accomplishment for him, and I think that is totally within the realm of possibility based on what we've seen from Krizo so far this year. And to be honest with you, I still don't think that a first call-out with Michal Krizo in it is out of the realm of possibility. I think Krizo is that good. So while his conditioning was better at the last show he did, I still think it needs to be tighter to be more competitive. I still think he should hold the poses longer, and I still think some of his posing is pretty shaky. That's something he's going to have to work on, especially if he makes it into a call-out like that at the Olympia. Those guys are seasoned professionals. They're not going to be shaking and struggling to pose in that first Olympia call-out. And then keep in mind, when I spoke to Krizo after last year's Olympia, he said he wasn't, even after turning pro that year for the IFBB, he wasn't even thinking about doing the Olympia. It was more his sponsors and his coach that said, hey, just go ahead and go qualify, go win a show, and do the Olympia. So he claimed after he won his pro card at that Olympia Amateur, there was like this rush to win a pro show and get to the Olympia, and it wasn't his initial plan. So he was saying to me, look, next year's Olympia is going to be different. That's going to be my plan the entire year. I'm going to have my sight set on that show. That's the end game. That's the goal. He says he wasn't even originally looking at doing last year's Olympia. 2024 was always the goal for him. So I think with his sights set on this show, I think all things considered, 12th place last year was still pretty damn good, especially in that lineup. I really think Krizo is going to shock people at this year's Olympia. I think he's going to be top 10. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Where do you think Michael Krizo is going to place at the 2023 Mr. Olympia? Now, the final story that I've got for you guys today, the latest physique update from Nick Walker posted today. Still not saying exactly what he weighs, but in this update, 16 weeks out from the Olympia now. With what we know about GoodVito, we did a comparison shot of him and GoodVito a couple videos ago. Let's compare the most muscular of Nick Walker versus GoodVito, even with knowing that GoodVito could potentially have an injured leg. What does this say to you? Because I gotta be honest, I do think GoodVito looks really impressive on Instagram, and I did think at the last show he competed in where he earned his pro card, he looked really, really good on stage. But after seeing him at that guest posing, now I've just got in the back of my mind, are these crazy updates that we're getting from GoodVito actually going to translate to a really competitive physique on stage against guys like Nick or Samson or Andrew Jack, Hadi Chupin, Derek Lunsford? Because keep in mind, GoodVito still even has to get to that level. He hasn't even qualified for the Olympia. He hasn't even won a pro show yet. So to put his name even in this conversation is already a bit of a stretch. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. That's going to wrap it up for the video, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Make sure you like it, subscribe, all that good stuff. Click the bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.